Hello everyone, I'm Sucharita Pasila. I'm a Power BI developer at Colaberry, and I've joined with the Colaberry in last end of the August. So it's been like more than 6 months. I've been working with this project for like 2 months. As you can see, I am kind of continuing the project that Parmala has started. It's kind of related to electric vehicles, renewable energy, and impact on the climate change. So I think you are all warmed up for the climate change. I'm going to extend a bit more on that. So I'll ask a question like, when it comes to purchasing a car, are we all considering the long-term consequences of our actions on the planet? If not, we may not be leaving the planet better for the next generations. So when you are making a driving choices, you have to think about a sustainable future, and you don't accelerate the demise of the planet. So electric vehicles and renewable energy is the winning solution to reduce the carbon emissions that's coming from the transportation industry. So here are the consequences of the ignoring the climate change. The climate change is all our making. So we are the consequence of this climate change. So if we continue to ignore the issues of the climate change, the consequences will be severe and far-reaching. The continued emissions of greenhouse gases will result in rising global temperatures, leading to more frequent and intense heat waves, droughts, ocean acidifications, and natural disasters. As you can see, our weather, it's the immediate change that you can notice. The summers is like too intense, and the winter we have like a very frequent blizzards happening. That's the small change that you can see right away at your house, but they'll have like a profound impact on the agriculture, water resources, and ecosystems, causing food and water shortages, loss of biodiversity, and damage to natural habitats. Climate change will have a significant impact on human health with increased spread of diseases, respiratory problems, and heat-related illnesses. So the cost of inaction in climate change will be far outweighs the investments required to mitigate these effects. So this is the best time to act to reduce the climate change that's impacting our planet. Therefore, it's essential that we take immediate and collective action to address the climate change, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and transition toward a more sustainable and resilient future. Here, I have collected the data from the Europe carbon emissions, and my project is how Europe is taking actions to reduce their carbon emissions in all different industries, in all aspects, but I am considering only the transportation industry. So because the transportation industry is accounting for 1/4 of Europe's greenhouse gas emissions. But the winning solution to achieve this big task of reducing the carbon emissions is a combination of electric vehicles and renewable energy. An electric vehicle may have a smaller carbon footprint, but to truly make the difference, the electricity used to power these vehicles must come from renewable sources. So this report will give an insight on how carbon emissions have impacted with the new registration of electric vehicles and renewable energy consumption across the Europe from 2013 to 2019. Here I have data related to new passenger vehicles that are coming to market every year from 2013 to 2019 by type of the vehicle in each country, the average carbon emissions in grams per kilograms coming from these vehicles that's coming to the market, and the energy consumption from different sources in each country. The data is sourced from the International Council on Clean Transport and European Environment Agency. So I've created a date table and the measures table to hold all the calculations that are required to analyze the KPIs in this project. Here I have KPIs, electric vehicle quantity that's coming into the market year over year, and the electric vehicle market share of the electric vehicles that's coming year over year, and the actual renewable consumption of each country year over year, and the carbon emissions That's changing year over year for each country from 2013 to 2019. And I have the actual values and then the percentage change in these values year over year as their KPIs. This is my dashboard. Here I have a slicer to slice the data from 2013 to 2019. And I have 4 KPI cards on the left with the main KPIs to show the actual change in the units. And I have sub KPIs to give us the percentage change over the years with I have indicators to show like if it's increasing and decreasing. And the purpose of this project is to help lower carbon emissions. So the indicator with the down arrow for this carbon emissions that's changing year over year, since our aim is to reduce the carbon emissions, so the down arrow here shows it's a green. I'm just mentioning for not to confuse. The first KPI gives us the quantity of electric vehicles coming to the market year over year. And the second KPI gives us the change in the market share of the electric vehicles. And the third KPI gives us the energy usage coming from the renewable energy. And the fourth KPI gives us how the carbon emissions coming from the road transport are changing year over year. Coming to the visualizations, the top left chart gives you you can track all of these KPIs over the years. And the top right chart tells us how these KPIs change over the years for each country. You can see like I have from Norway, Germany, France, and all of the countries over the years. And both these charts, the bars represents the quantity of the electric vehicles that's coming to the market. And the lines represent the percentage change of electric vehicle quantity, market share, renewable energy consumption, and the carbon emissions. Bottom right chart is a field map that shows the average carbon intensity of new passenger vehicles in each country. And this is measured as the average emissions of carbon emissions in grams per kilometer traveled across all types of passenger vehicles. The lighter color means the less emissions, and the darker color gives us like the country has more emissions. Bottom left chart is a scatter plot and have bubbles in it. So it gives us like a multi-dimensional detail. And on x-axis, I have renewable energy consumption. And on y-axis, I have electric vehicle market share. And each bubble represents one country, and the size of the bubble gives us the quantity of the electric vehicles coming to the market. The bigger the bubble, the more vehicle coming into the market. And the color of the bubble tells us about the change in the carbon emissions. The lighter the color tells us the country reduced their emissions significantly, and the darker the bubble means they need to do more to reduce their emissions. So if you look at the top right chart, the dip in the electric vehicle quantity and the market share has gone down in 2016. It's because of the changed taxation policies in some countries. So I have few suggestions or insights that I got from this dashboard. If you look at the Norway, from 2013 to 2019, as you look here, like Norway introduced the quantity of the electrical vehicles that introduced into the market is highest compared to all the countries in the Europe. From 2013 to 2019, the carbon emissions on average decreased by 12.09% every year, with an increase in electric vehicles share of 34.3% every year on an average. And the renewable consumption energy, even though it's showing as a decrease in renewable consumption over the years, but the Norway's Norway's renewable energy consumption is already very high since I took the data from 2013. So it's still high even in 2013. So it didn't change much over the years, but to get the better idea of the renewable energy consumption of the country, I've got the actual value that's coming, the actual share of the renewable energy that's coming from renewable energy is a 69.2% for Norway. In 2019, of if you look at Norway, and just in 2019, carbon emissions in Norway is decreased by 28.86%. So compared to the previous year, it's decreased by 11.21% in 2018. So compared to 2018, just in 2019, it's decreased to 28.86%. So Norway is leading the world in reducing the carbon emissions, not just in the Europe, all over. If you look at all the continents, Norway is leading the world in carbon emission, reducing their carbon emissions and increasing more vehicles in carbon emissions, reducing their carbon emissions. To look at the countries that needs to improve their strategies on reducing the carbon emissions is, if you look at the Germany, carbon emissions in an average decreased only by 0.68%, even though it's decreased, but it only decreased by 0.68% with increase in electric vehicle share, actual value of 0.26%. Every year, on an average, renewable energy consumption share of 13.3%. So the Germany needs to increase their carbon emission share, because right now it's only 13.3%. That's why it's not able to decrease their carbon emissions much, even though it's increasing the electric vehicles that's introduced into the market. So Germany needs to put more, get more energy that's coming into the renewable energy for their energy uses of the country. And if you look at the Switzerland, you can see in this map, the average carbon emissions of the Switzerland is still high even at the end of 2019. It's at 135.56 grams per kilometer. So Switzerland carbon emissions decreased only by 1.24% every year and still have an average of carbon emissions of 135.6. That's why it's still pretty high, because it's not introduced much of electric vehicles into the market, and their renewable energy consumption is actually reduced over the years. That's why the carbon emissions at the end of 2019 is still high. These are some of the insight that I want to present today from the dashboard. So the key to, by looking at the data, the key to reduce these emissions is to increase the market share of electric vehicles, and the source of these energy used in these electric vehicles must come from the renewable energy sources. So if you look at Norway, how the Norway is able to reduce their carbon emissions is by introducing a comprehensive package of tax incentives and subsidies. The country made it easier for its citizens to make the switch to electric vehicles. And it's a lesson other countries needs to learn from Norway. Look at how Norway implemented and then take the lessons from it and adapt to their own needs. So my suggestions out of this project are, like, while electric vehicles plays a crucial role in reducing carbon emissions, it's not enough. So the next thing to consider in fighting the climate change is decarbonizing the production of materials used in these vehicles, like particularly batteries. The automotive industry must take the lead in rethinking its value chain and developing industry-wide standards and prioritizing the sustainability. Other thing to consider is, like, automotive industry must work toward to increase the fuel economy of these vehicles, and the government must take initiatives to make the transition to electric vehicles easier by installing the recharging stations more, and then providing like free parking spaces by providing tax incentives and subsidies for the citizens to make the transition easier. And then as per like an individual, we can make a difference by choosing a net zero carbon emission vehicle and using alternative mode of transportation and opting for renewable energy sources like solar panels over the rooftop. And so let's work together to build a sustainable future to reduce our carbon footprint on the planet. Thank you so much.